Hey guys, welcome back to another part. In this one, just like in real life, whenever we want to plant trees, we're gonna have to gather seeds, right? Just like that in Unreal Engine as well, we need to set some stuff ready so that we can paint all the foliage onto our landscape. That is the Foliage Painter. So I'll introduce you to Foliage Painter and its settings, and we'll also add some trees to the Foliage Painter and set the settings of each individual foliage. And we're going to add more Megascan assets like bushes and flowers and grass to Foliage Painter. And finally, we're going to prepare all the foliage for painting, which is going to happen in the next part, which is going to be so much fun. So let's go into Unreal Engine. This is where we have left off in the last part. We have set the basic composition and I think it is looking okay. Right now it looks super empty, but we're gonna fix that once we paint in all our foliage. So right now we need some trees for us to be able to paint in, and luckily we have downloaded the free asset pack from Epic Games, which is the European Hornbeam. So let's select this folder and let's go into geometry, and you'll see two folders over here. One is Pivot Painter and one is Simple Wind. Both are the same type, the same mesh, but they have different type of wind system. And from what I've found, Pivot Painter wind, it's much more nicer for cinematic purposes. So we're going to be using Pivot Painter. So right now, as you can see, these are all static mesh, but what we can do is go into our foliage and then we can drop these in to foliage and then we can start painting. So we want to select a few of the trees. So I like to use some of the tall trees. So let's select these, maybe this one as well for variation. So let's put down over here. Now once we've put this down, you'll see everything is selected, and if you choose paint tool and paint, everything will be painted in that area. And if we choose single, and if you choose cycle through selected, you can place down one at a time and it will cycle through everything that you have selected. But if you choose all selected, then it will just put down all of the trees that you have selected in just one point. But we want a cycle through selected. Another option that you should know is the select tool. That is, you can select any instance that you want and you can manipulate around with the location, rotation, and even the scale of it. Or you can just select and delete that particular instance. Another thing that is good to talk about is the filters. So what filter is right now we are painting on the landscape. So let's say single and let's say cycle through selected. Now this is painting on the landscape, but we can also paint on static mesh like these. But right now it has some limitations to it. So for instance, what if we paint, there you go. It has some slope limitations to these trees for now, which I'll get into later on. So you can paint in these static mesh. That's why we have these filters. Sometimes you just want to paint on the landscape and you don't want to mess around with any of the static mesh that you have put down, because it will just mess everything. So what we can do is we can turn off static mesh, and now if we do that, we can't paint on this static mesh anymore. Even the cursor is not being appeared on this static mesh. It will only appear on the landscape. So that is the filter usage. Now let's talk about some of the individual settings that it has. So if you select one of these trees like this, if you scroll down, you'll see all these settings like density, radius, single instance, which I don't use much of the time. Scaling is very important, and we have some offsets and some alignments and all those things. So, but I'll show you just a few things that we'll need. So first of all is the density. Right now if we just choose paint, and let's choose our paint density to 1, and then if we paint it down, we'll spawn in this amount of trees. But if we were to reduce this density to about 1, and if we paint this down, it will just spawn 1 with every mouse click, sort of. It's not exact, but this is what's happening right now instead of spawning a lot. So by using this value over here, you can control how much or how much lesser you want for this particular foliage. For this tree, I kind of want it a little bit more, so let's change it to about 5. And let's remove everything. And now I'll show you another good setting to tweak, which is the radius. So if I put down one tree here, I can put down another tree over here, and another tree over here, and another tree over here. Now they will start clipping. So sometimes it will happen without you knowing it when you paint in like this. So everything will start clipping to each other. To prevent this, we have a radius. So to view the radius, you just go into single, and right now the radius is 0, so this little ball is really small. If I were to change this to 1000, now this ball will be bigger, and this is the radius of the tree. So if I put this down, I cannot put another tree within this radius. So if I were to put this, click this around here, it will not spawn, but only outside the radius of this tree. Now this is a good way to prevent clipping from every foliage that you have. But for this one, we're just gonna set this to 500. Now let's try painting it. I think the density and the radius looks good, but one thing that you might notice is that everything is uniformed. Everything looks the same. So to randomize this effect, what we can do is scroll down and you'll see scale X over here. Now we have a minimum and maximum. So this is the range that you need to set, and it will randomize any value, all of the instances within those range that you set. So for instance, if I were to change this to 0.6 as a minimum value and 1.2 as a maximum value, now if you paint, the size will be randomized between the range that you set. So now we have a more uneven forest. That is exactly what we want, and 0.6 minimum and 1.2 max is what we're going to be using for our tree. So instead of setting the same value for everything, I kind of want to set a different value for this larger tree over here. But for tall trees, they're a little bit thinner. So if you check this out, they're a lot thinner than this large tree. So for these ones, we're going to select everything at once like this, and we can change all the settings together. So first of all, let's change our density to about 20 again. But for our radius, this is too small. So let's change this to about 300. Now this might be a little bit too big. So let's change this to 150. I think that might be okay. We can clip in a little bit of those leaves, but actually let's change this to about 175. I think that would be okay. Right now, the size is also uniformed again, so let's change this to point. I like how tall these trees are, so I don't want to make it too small. So let's change this to 0.8 minimum and 1.2 as max again. So now if we paint in, you can see these trees spawning. Now I think the density might be a little bit too much, but that is because we're using one density. So if we were to reduce this, that is still too much. So let's reduce our density to about 5. Now if we paint in, that density should be fine. Let's check with our big tree as well, but this one has a wider radius, so it should be fine. Let's select everything, try painting, and I think that looks okay. Let's just remove everything, and I think we are set with the trees. Now we want to download some of the grass and some of the bushes that we're going to be using from Quixel. So let's go into here again and let's open up Quixel Bridge. Now in home, let's search for grass. Now we have different types of grass over here, but what we want is something that looks kind of wild, like this, a wild grass. So let's change this to highest quality because we want the best quality ever. So let's go there and let's click on download. Now I do want some flowers as well. These are some sea thrips. They look very beautiful. If you want this, you can download this as well. But these ones are also really nice. But I want something that has some good colors to it, like yellow flowers. So let's search flowers. Now we have field poppy, daffodils, and all those. Now this yellow flower looks amazing. So I want to change this to high quality again, and let's download this. And let's search for a little bit more that we might want to use. Maybe something like this or something like this. This would look really great as an abandoned place. So let's actually download this, high quality, and click on download. I've already downloaded this, so I don't really need it. And then maybe we can do one more. This looks really wild because it looks like something that will grow around an abandoned place. So let's do this. Let's select the highest quality available and let's download. Now let's go back to grass. We have a wild grass for now, but we also want some cut grass because we want some variation to the grass. So let's search for grass and let's see what we can find. We do have some ribbon grass like this too, but I don't really like how it looks. And I do have a particular one that I like a lot, which is in local. Let's go to local and 3D assets. Oh, sorry, 3D plants. Where did it go? Here, grass clumps. If you search for grass clumps, I think you should be able to find. So we're going to be using that as well. And we're also going to use another one, the last thing, that is the lady fern. So we want to scatter some ferns around as well. If you want some bushes, you can also download some elderberries and black locust, and we can use those as well. So let's import everything to Unreal Engine. So to do that, you select this and you can choose the quality over here. But before you click on add, you want to go into this settings over here and disable auto populate foliage painter, because we want to bring these in one by one. We don't want everything to be placed in there as soon as it's arrived. So let's turn this off for now, close this, and then now we can click on add. Now it should be an Unreal Engine, but we're not done here yet. So let's do that for all of the assets that we have downloaded. So this one, we're going to be using this one as well. And we're going to be using some, let's use some dead leaves as well, because we're going to be needing some of the leaves. I kind of like this. So if you want to download this, just search for dead leaves and you'll find this image or this icon over here and download that one. Let's add this one as well. And we're going to be adding some lady fern over here. Let's choose medium quality, add. And we can do one bush. Let's do elderberry over here. If you want, you can download this again. So let's add this over here. Now, while we're at it, we're going to also download ivy. Search for ivy and you'll see this broom creeper. Let's download this at highest quality because we're going to be using this to lay out all the ivy for the church. But we're not going to export this right now because we don't want to use it in Foliage Painter for now. So right now, if you go into Mega Scans and 3D Plants, you'll see all these new folders that you have placed. So let's put down one at a time. So let's go into Wildgrass first. Right now, if you are stuck at loading, just select everything or just open it and now it will start loading. Usually, if you select everything and right click, it should start loading, but I think this is bugged right now, so you can double click to preview. And we're just going to use a few things. So we can use this tall one over here and a few of these over here. So let's drag this over to this side. Now with foliage, we want to use nanite as well. So just right click on the selected mesh and then go into nanite and enable this. But we're not done yet. We need to open these three up like this. So here we want to set enable nanite support and also preserve area. Let's apply change and save. For this one as well, let's change to preserve area and apply change. Preserve area and apply change. What that does is that it will, even if your camera is far away, you will still be able to see these grass without losing any quality. That is what we need to set for your grass. So we have set these grass and let's test out how it looks. Let's change the brush size to a little bit smaller like this. And then let's place it down. Our paint density is at 0.1. So let's paint this down. And you can see how this is being scattered all over the place. So we can go into density and increase this to about 300. Now that will spawn a little bit more evenly, but we want the change in the size. So let's change this to 0.5 to 1.5 because we want this to be really wild. A lot of different changes. So I think this is looking great already. We can change the density amount later on, maybe like about 500. And now we can see how this is being affected. Right now, as you can see, the grass don't look that good because it's too white, but we're going to change that later on once we paint the assets. We're going to tweak all the assets together. So we have grass already. Let's go into some of the yellow flower. Let's just double click. Double click. Let's just take some of these. I like the smaller bunch ones, so something like this, and we'll take a grouped one as well. So we're going to change this to nanite. Let's double click all the stuff that we have chosen. And now before we forget which one we have chosen, let's select everything and place it to our foliage painter. Now here, we're going to change this to preserve area, apply, preserve area, apply, preserve area, apply. Don't forget to save as well. I didn't save the other one, so let's open this and save this as well. Now for this one, we're not going to change any of the settings yet. It's only when we're painting the details, we're going to be changing these. So let's just go into our lady fern over here and choose the ones that we might like. I think 3 of these will be fine. So let's just put it down, right click, nanite, and enable nanite. Double click all 3 of these, preserve area, apply, save, preserve area, apply, save, preserve area, apply, and let's save this. Now we have the lady ferns in. Now for elderberry as well, we have a few of these. Let's put this down. And then for these ones, we're going to right click and enable nanite. Let's open these up. Preserve, apply, and save, preserve, apply and save, preserve, apply and save. Now for dead leaves, we have 3. I'm just going to use 2 around here. So we have these 2, right click, nanite, enable, double click, and then preserve, apply, save, preserve, apply, and save. Let's save our level as well. And then let's just deselect these 2. Make sure everything is deselected. So you can select everything, you can highlight everything and click on this little icon and click on it again so that it deselects everything. Before we end this part, I also want to add a few more stuff, which is in European Hornbeam, in Geometry, Pivot Painter, and some of the smaller trees around here. So we can check this out by dragging and dropping onto the level and see what are the smaller ones. So maybe these ones might be small. I do love these ones because they can be really great. For European Hornbeam, these are already set to nanite, so you don't really have to preserve area or anything because they have been set to nanite already. So let's just put this down over there and let's just deselect it. So we have successfully put down all of the assets, all of the foliage that we want to use in Foliage Painter. In the next one, we're going to paint in some of the big details. So it's going to be really fun. I'll see you in the next one.